I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. It. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
High fly ball, left field, Arozarena, watches it go!
Bizzardo's been the guy that's gotten us through those situations, those tight ones, especially in the pivot role, and that's where we were going at that point.
Did you consider going to Munoz, and why did you like Bizzardo better than Munoz in that situation?
Like we said, Bizzardo's been doing it all season long and has been so consistent at it, and he's done such a good job all year. We felt really comfortable with him out there, the way he's been throwing the ball, especially in this series, and it was a good spot for him.
So Kirby, I would have loved to have seen him be forced out of the game, or at least go batter to batter. The eighth batter, the ninth hitter, and Springer. Maybe have the bullpen ready, but don't quite go so quickly to Wu proactively. Maybe wait, because at the end of the day, the Mariners, it came down to this. They had their third best bullpen guy in the most important part of their season, perhaps the most important part of their franchise history.
I'm super proud of these guys. It was a great team effort. Love every guy in this room. I hate to use the word failure, but it's a failure. And that's what we expected, was to get to a World Series, win a World Series, and that's, what the bar is and the standard is, and, that's what we want to hold ourselves accountable to. But
the sights and sounds from yesterday. Welcome into the Daily Puck Drop here on a Tuesday, from Bizzardo serving up the Springer home run to Dan Wilson to Alex Rodriguez, and finally to a very emotional Cal Raleigh there in the Mariners clubhouse. Just agony for the Mariners today. We'll walk through it here on this Daily Puck Drop. It is a special agony Daily Puck Drop, as we will not have our normal Tuesday guests on. We will go heavy on the Mariners today. We were going to do it regardless of win or lose. Jim Moore is here, the go-to guy. We'll get to him momentarily. We'll talk to Chris Egan from King 5. He'll join us coming up shortly, followed by Ryan Divish of the Seattle Times from Toronto. Then a special SportsPit edition with Matt Stretch Johnson stopping on by today. And then we will wrap it up. And I was hoping to talk to this guy on a very victorious day with the team going to the first ever World Series, because he should be in the Edward R. Murrow School Hall of Fame. That would be Gary Hill Jr., one of the Mariners broadcasters. He will join us at the very end of the show. But a special Tuesday visit with our guy, Jim Moore, who normally joins us Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. He's back here on a Tuesday visit. And bonus, Brotherton, Cadillac, Angry Beaver, and Clean Streak, they're getting a bonus show today, Jim Moore.
They are, Puck, and unfortunately it's in sad circumstances. But my thanks to Brad Brotherton, Cadillac Northwest and Shoreline, and Brotherton Cadillac Buick GMC in Renton. Fourth generation family there, and fourth generation Cougs. You want to check it out because they'll exceed your expectations in the car buying experience. Also, Brian Turner, you mentioned him. Brian Turner from a Clean Streak. And he also has a Christmas lighting business, brightowllighting.com. Check it out for a free estimate. Give him a call there at Brian Turner at 360-675-2034 or brightowllighting.com. And last but certainly not least, the Angry Beaver. Some sad faces, some long faces at the Angry Beaver. But you know what? Go there at happy hour today, 4 to 6, $2 off drinks and menu items at the Angry Beaver in Greenwood.
Great recall here by Christopher Smith. I forgot what we used to do on the radio show, but Chris is right. This is definitely not for me Tuesday. A not for me Tuesday, as the Mariners just an absolute heartbreak, gut punch. You're the wordsmith. You've been doing this for many, many years, writing columns and covering stories. But you sum it up.
I don't know how to sum it up exactly. Can anyone put it into words, what we're feeling today? I honest to God, Puck, thought that it had been long enough. And I firmly believe in these guys called the baseball gods. And I thought that they would shine on Seattle sports fans and the Mariners in particular. I really did. And I can't help but think that they were up there just going, you know what, we're going to screw with them again. We're just going to screw with them again. 49 years, not enough. It's going to be half a century before you get your wish there in Seattle. And I know that everyone is sitting here today or last night, national guys, local guys, fans, people who love the Mariners, criticizing Dan Wilson. Should have been Munoz instead of Bizzardo. We can go back and forth on that, and I'm sure we will. I mean, I don't know what the whole situation was, but I'm not in a mood to blame anyone for their loss yesterday, except for those guys up in the stratosphere that I call the baseball gods, and fuck them. Okay, that's all I got.
That should be the title of. Is that going to be the title of the very next Jim Moore gotoguy.substack.com? That should be it. The title.
Well, it's in the News
Fuck
Tribune.
you, baseball gods.
Yeah, the News Tribune today. Basically,
yeah, but in the News Tribune, you can't say "fuck you, baseball gods." At
No,
Jim
I
Moore, the
can't.
gotoguy.substack.com, you can.
No, I know. I said it on Twitter, but God, everybody's just blaming Dan Wilson. And
Well.
Dan Wilson, was it his fault? I guess. You know what? I compare it to Pete Carroll and Darrell Bevel getting blamed for the call to pass it. If that pass had been complete, they'd have been geniuses. If Bizzardo had done a good job and Munoz had closed out the 3-1 win, everybody would have been going, God, that was a good move, bringing Bizzardo in and letting Munoz go 2 innings to close it out. Way to go, Danny. Instead, we're all going, oh, God, damn, Wilson sucks.
You and I think about, I think view sports very much the same. And it's that revisionist history and how we go through it and process sports through the actual moment and then afterwards, when the move doesn't work, it's just, he's, so-and-so's the worst ever. When it works, there's no praise for it. It's so, again, there's a million things that I could point to in that game last night. And I think point to in that series, why they ended up losing. I don't think that there's one particular thing of why they lost the game. But I do understand why people go there. People go there because it's you need someone to blame. There has to be one particular person or something. And it has been the thing. And again, I don't think that there is anyone without blame coming from that game last night. There's plenty of people. There's plenty of people why they didn't get the job done. It's not just certainly one person. And we'll get into all of that. We got a lot of people coming up today. Chris Egan's going to join us. We'll get into probably some more of the decisions when Ryan Divish will stop on by from Toronto. We got one half of the Sports Pit. Matt Stretch Johnson's going to step on by. And then we'll close out with Gary Hill Jr. And like I mentioned before, I really wanted Gary on to talk about the first ever pennant going to the World Series because this is a guy who has grown up here. He went to school at Washington State. His lifelong dream was to be the voice of the Mariners. He is now one of the voices of the Mariners. His childhood hero was Dave Niehaus. The guy has a collection of tapes of Dave Niehaus that are in the thousands. And I mean, just he obsesses over Dave Niehaus. And I was just hoping that for a local kid who's like all of us, a fan, had a chance to call maybe the final out of his team, his favorite team, clinching a World Series appearance would have been great. But it'd be also very good to get his perspective on what it was like last night, especially when you watch Bizzardo serve that up and Springer hitting that out. I know how my kids reacted.
Yeah, why don't you tell your listeners how that went?
Well, it led to a fight. It led to them getting in a fist fight after the game, yes, because one was crying and the other one told the other one to shut up. It's sports, get over it, and then a brawl. That's, and I don't know whether that's a good thing or that's passion.
Okay, I want to go ringside real quick. So it was 12-year-old Owen, the vampire, versus Mary Lou, the gymnast, 16-year-old Mari. I would say I would make it basically a pick'em, probably. And ringside, I'm going to say that Owen probably landed more punches than Mari did, or how did it go?
He's getting bigger and a little bit more physical, a little bit more confident. So I think, Dr. Freddie Pacheco had to we had to get in there to stop the fight before it got.
Well, did you let it go for a little while to get the entertainment value out of it, or was there any hair pulling? Pulling?
I had to jump. I had to jump in real quick, but
were there F words used?
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
what are you fucking doing?
There was a lot of F words used, I think, throughout the game. But I was, and again, I'm not promoting violence here, but watching their reaction to it, like I was a similar age of my daughter, and the greatest heartbreak that I've ever experienced, and I think it's different because of the age that you're in. So I'm going to say this, people are going to go, well, God, the Super Bowl is the worst one ever. I was in a different age. I was older, but the worst loss for me, because I think you suffer through these things worse when you're a kid, was 94. 94 and the Sonics
Nuggets.
losing to the Nuggets was my worst sports experience.
Well, because that year they were the number one team in the Western Conference, and number one had never lost to an 8 until then.
So their reaction just brought me back to how I reacted that night, that day. Was just, and then it was, a year earlier, I reacted in a similar fashion in Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals when I watched the Suns go to the free throw line, every possession. So to watch them react that way, it brought me back to how I was a kid and how I viewed sports. And then I thought about your two boys who are baseball, devout, just like my kids are. And then I'm thinking of your mom, who all she wants is to see them go to the World Series, and she's 96. It's just God, when that ball hit and you heard the sound of it, right when I heard the sound of it, because I'm like covering my eyes, and I just heard it, and I'm like, shit.
Hey, come to think of it, George Springer and what he did, and actually, if we weren't Mariner fans and if we were Blue Jay fans or just baseball fans, and I didn't realize, I know how good a player he is, but to have hit 23 postseason home runs in his career, and then the one last night to do it as clutch as that knee was killing him, absolutely killing him. And if you want to blame, okay, who would you put the blame game if we're going to play that? I blame the Mariner fans who cheered when he got hit, because that's called bad karma.
Well, you brought it up early. You tempt the baseball gods with shit like that, and booing someone when he gets hurt. That shit comes around and gets you.
Yeah.
And
so whoever cheered when Springer got hurt, I hope they feel bad, because they're responsible, because that's karma coming right back in your face right there.
Yeah. He had his Kirk Gibson moment.
Yeah, you talked about my mom, and I talked to her last night, and she had a good attitude about it. She said it was going to give her incentive to live longer. And so she's going to keep going. So hopefully next year when she's 97, they'll make it. But you know what, Puckett? All it did last night was just make all of us who are skeptical and cynical and burned out on the damn Mariners always letting us down. And it was just like, oh, well, here we go again. Why should we have expected anything different? I even started thinking about, okay, it's not going to happen in your lifetime, Puck. It's not going to happen in my lifetime. It's not going to happen in my mom's, my kids. I'm even thinking that people who are born in 2030 aren't going to see it in their lifetime yet either. They don't know that yet. They haven't even been conceived. But once they are conceived, they're destined for a lifetime of failure from the Mariners. And I felt so bad hearing Raleigh talk about that last night, because it's like Cal's sitting there with red eyes. Clearly he's been crying, and it meant so much to him. And then for him to stand there and use the word failure, no, Cal, you weren't a failure. Your team wasn't a failure. You didn't quite make it, but I wouldn't go so far as to say it was a failure. Yeah, it was disappointing. Everyone's disappointed, but Cal Raleigh was not a failure, nor were the Mariners this year.
I don't think he was a failure. No, I think when you take a step back, no, the team wasn't a failure. But I think for him, you get this all the time, and I hear this from fans. Why don't they care as much as we do? And I just laugh.
They care more than we do.
I laugh, and I'm like, you don't get it. Like they care a million times more than we care. Yeah. This is their life. This is their livelihood. This is everything. This is the quiet nights by themselves, working out in the dark, giving up any type of social life or whatever they have as kids so they can go and work on their craft. This means everything to them. If you ever think that it means more to you or to your loved ones or to the loved ones you lost, you're full of it. It doesn't. It means more to them. I mean, look at his eyes. Look at his body language. Look at his reaction. I mean, that guy poured everything, not only to that game, but to that entire season. You know, you've probably seen the viral clip by now of Wu addressing the media, and then someone like, you know, during the interview lets out just this primal scream. I mean, it's such a long season for these guys in baseball. And on top of that, as you know, we all know, they carry the weight of 48 plus years, 49 years on their shoulders. And they wanted to do it not just for themselves, but for everyone watching and listening to this.
Yeah, this close to being a legendary team, because it wouldn't have mattered what happened against the Dodgers. They would have been the first one to accomplish something in Seattle sports history. And that's the thing that I've always come back to as to why I would want to play here if I was a baseball player, because I would be part of something that has never happened before. Whereas you go to the Yankees or the Dodgers, it's like, oh, God, we've won 13 of these things, you know, and yeah, you were good too, but I feel so bad for those guys. I was thinking about like Cal Raleigh making 17 million or whatever he's making. I bet you if someone said to him, hey, Cal, you know, how about just making 5 million this year, but we're going to guarantee that you go to the World Series, he would have signed up for that. I don't think they think about their contracts in a game 7 last night. I think they think about, God, this is pretty cool that we're in a game 7. And Naylor talked about it. This going back to your backyard as a kid, thinking about those kind of dreams that you have of being in a situation like that.
And what was amazing about when we did the show yesterday, and we don't get anything right. We literally talked about everything was aligning of what we discussed yesterday. Everything. The superstars need to be superstars.
Oh, you were right about that.
I mean, you look at it,
except for God, it was.
You look at Julio and you look at Cal. But hold on, I know what you're going to say on the last inning, and I'm going to. You have to give him a pass. You have to understand. You got to put yourself in his shoes. That's so hard. I know everyone's screaming at their TV that here comes the slider. Here comes the slider.
I know.
He's just trying to be. You're trying to get on base for Cal. I get it. But then there's the competitor in you of just trying one swing. We tie it up. I can be the hero. That's a hard fight. And listen, that slider.
Well, you don't want to go down on a called strike 3 either.
Of course, you know that slider away was coming. Everybody knew it was coming. He probably knew it was coming, and you know it's a tough way to end. But he delivered. Cal delivered. We talked about JP delivering. He delivers a double, has the sack bunt. He makes just an unbelievable, which would have been like a poster on so many kids' wall of his double play. Yep. Of leaping in the air and throwing to Josh Naylor. That would have been a poster that people would have lived for. Every 12-year-old would have had that in their house, that picture.
And really, how great was that throw was perfect, and so many others that are routine this year. He's short hopping Naylor or throwing it wide, and he goes airborne and he throws a perfect strike.
And we talked about George Kirby. You're like, well, why are you confident in George Kirby? And I'm like, I don't really know. I just am. There's something about George Kirby, and he was brilliant.
Yep.
He's absolutely brilliant, and, you know, deserved, and we can get in that probably later with Divish. He deserved more. He deserved to be out there longer than he was. You know, there's so many decisions that went in that game. Let's bring Chris Egan on. Chris Egan from King 5 joins us on Fridays, but he is here on a Tuesday edition of the Daily Puck Drop. Again, we're clearing everything out to all Mariners on today's show, and Chris joins us right now. Well, we've had our say, Chris Egan. You a longtime resident here of the state. What was that like last night for you?
It's just a wave of emotions in the newsroom working. I think at 3-1, like a lot of people out there, I started letting my mind think about World Series, started letting my mind think about planning out a World Series and how great it was going to be. And there was just an incredible vibe in the newsroom. And then as soon as he pitched that, Bizzardo made that pitch, I just dropped a gigantic F-bomb across the newsroom. I was 5 seconds. My TV was 5 seconds ahead of everybody else. And it was just deflating. I mean, it was just a gut punch. It was shock. I was sad. I mean, I knew there was still hope that they could win this thing, but then when it was over, it was tough to take. I'm going to be honest, guys. I've been covering sports for 25 years, watching it for pretty much my whole life, and there was just something special about this team. There was something special about this season. The uncertainty at spring training, the historic journey of Cal Raleigh, the All-Star game, the 9 straight wins in September to put them in this position, the 15 inning thriller against the Tigers, the grand slam in Game 5, and then when it's over, it just hits you. It just hits you like a brick wall, and so it's tough. And then we sit here today, guys, and Puck, that was one thing on my notes last night. God, I thought Kirby was rolling. I didn't like that move. I just thought, you know what? And it's easy to play backseat manager on this day, which we will do. But I just thought Kirby was in the groove. I didn't get that. I didn't like the Bizzardo move. So there's some moves I don't like, but you know what? It's easy to sit here. It's difficult to be where Dan's at right now, but. I didn't want to go last night, Jim, too. Like everybody in the newsroom started tweeting, like, "Thank you, Mariners, thank you." I was like, bullshit, like I'm just pissed right now. Let me be pissed off. Because I don't want to say, it was an incredible season, but I just didn't want to. I wasn't ready to go there yet, and I don't even know if I'm ready to go there right now. It's going to take a few days to get over this one because, Puck, you ask on this show with Jim Moore, what would we consider a success? And I said it, and I can't go back. I said, getting to the World Series is what I want this team to do. And so I will say this, and then I'll let you two go. Cal Raleigh. And Jim, I'd love to get your thoughts on this as well, because you've been covering sports in this town longer than anybody. Cal Raleigh, his post-game interviews, he may have jumped to my number one sports athlete in this city in its history. To see Cal Raleigh, bloodshot eyes, tears, speaking simply, but speaking the truth. It sucks. It hurts. It was a failure. You know what? Because that's what I was feeling. And I didn't need some bull crap like, hey, let's go get him again next year, blah, blah, spring training's only. And you know what? Cal Raleigh was speaking for so many people, and I think we've all been there, if our kids lose or, a big game or something like that, we all have that feeling. It's at a different level. But to see what Cal did after that game, to meet with the media, crying, upset, emotionally just drained, he's number one in my book, man. He's number one, and hopefully he can bring a World Series to this town because he is absolutely sensational, a leader in there. So, but I got nothing for you, Puck, except I'm still just numb. I'm still numb. I think that's the word.
Yeah, Chris, I've changed my mind because I was with you on saying that it would be less than a successful season if they didn't make it to the World Series, but they took it to Game 7.
Yeah.
And they did fall short, but I'm still going to label that a successful season. It's one of the best seasons. I mean, they went farther than any other Mariner team did. So to me now, I'm thinking, I'm wrong a lot. So what the hell if you're wrong on that too? I feel differently today about it. Looking back, when you think about the entire season, the ups and the downs, and how they came on at the end, and they won the AL West and put themselves in position to do what they did, and then to hear Cal talking. I was talking to Puck about it, saying it's a failure. No, it wasn't. It really wasn't. And just for other people out there who are listeners and viewers that aren't reporters or former reporter like me, typically when you go into a locker room or a clubhouse like that after a game, you don't necessarily see players you want to talk to. They're scarce. After the Sonics lost to the Nuggets, that playoff series that Puck was talking about in '94, Michael Cage was the only one in the locker room. There was no one else in there to talk to. And so I know that that's not probably a big deal to other people, but to reporters, it's like, you know what? This is what we learned when we were kids, you be a stand-up person and be there and face the music and just, talk about be a good sport when you lose, and give credit to the other team, do all that kind of stuff. And Cal Raleigh was a poster guy for that last night. I mean, he stood there, you could feel his emotion, and God, you broke down crying because he was.
Yeah. Jim, you don't change my mind a lot, but you just did, because as you were answering that, the whole last month just kind of went right through my mind. And it was a success. I mean, have we ever had a team like this bring a city together? I mean, I've never seen so many people coming together rooting for this one team like they did. And heck, I went to 3 grave sites yesterday to lay a Mariners towel next to them. That's what this team meant. It was so impactful to so many. And yeah, it was a success, because what a ride it was. And World Series would have been sweet, but you're right. Game 7 ALCS, we've never been there before. So how do you call that a failure? I'm with you, Jim. I don't think you can.
I think, though, where Cal is coming from, and is he knows, because, I mean, what was that, their 175th game, 174th game that they played in? It's each year brings something completely different. Like next year's team could look completely opposite of what this team looks like.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can envision a team that does not have Jorge Polanco, does not have Josh Naylor, does not have Eugenio Suarez. I mean, how do you replace that? How do you replace all those guys? And so I think his frustration is that this current team, what they did at the deadline, where they were positioned with their starters, was the best chance that they have ever had. And he's right, to get to the World Series and win it. Nothing is guaranteed next year. They could go out next year. Hell, they could miss the playoffs. They could get in as a wild card and be bounced. I mean, you think how close they were of not even getting to the championship series. I mean, think about it. They had to, they had to pull off a miracle in Game 5 just to get to here. So, the crapshoot of the baseball playoffs is so difficult, right? It's the season is so long, and then just weird things can happen in the postseason. Like this year, Brian Wu gets hurt the last week of the season, for God's sakes, and you don't even have your best pitcher. So I think these guys, they're in different shoes than we are in, because they lived through it, understand that opportunities like this don't come around often. And certainly for, Jim, for this organization, hasn't.
No, it certainly hasn't. So yeah, you're right, Puck. I mean, everything could be completely different next year, and so he realizes that. But just in the moment, though, just thinking about it and going over it, and sitting there, just kind of watching the Seahawks game after the Mariner game was over. It's just, it's heartbreaking for everyone, and not only directly involved, but all of us who are watching. It's just. It's tough to take. And then, and Chris, I was talking about it, and fortunately, you're more of a half glass full guy than I am. I mean, I'm starting to think, like, if they couldn't do it this year, like, really, seriously, if they couldn't do it this year, it's a down year in the American League. I think everyone acknowledges that. Certainly in the AL West, it wasn't a great division, but they won it, and they did it. And you can only play who you're facing in the competition that given season. But if they can't do it, and then with the starters and the bullpen and the lineup that they had, if they couldn't do it this year, then when in the hell are they ever going to do it? And so I got to admit that that's my negative way of thinking and looking at it too.
Well, I mean, you could think that way, or you could think, Jim, that this team is going to be built for a run. I mean, they are an organization. They are an organization that celebrated Tacoma Rainiers, the Everett team with championships. And I will say this to Puck's point: sure, this could be a different team, and you mentioned all the positives there on this team. And I'm not blaming him at all with this comment. It's just a fact that we have a manager. This was his first time ever in the playoffs. First time for this manager. So he now has experience under his belt. So that only makes him better the next time around. So I just feel like this team could get better. I think they are built like that for the organization. Sure, this was you're up 2-0 in a series, 86% chance to win it. But Puck, back to your point, you're one one bloop base hit from being eliminated from the Tigers during a 15-inning marathon. So
what has made them so frustrating this year, but I think in years past though, is the fact that they got up 2 games to none.
Yeah.
And they have done this routinely.
And they led 2-0 in game 3.
And then they come back home and they just fall apart.
The goddamn Humpy that won that race in game 3.
We can slice and fillet. First of all, yeah, we can put Humpy in the whole
Humpy on the barge.
thing on the barge. All right,
put Humpy on the barge and send it away.
I want you to take Humpy up to your fishing trip in Alaska and just fillet it up there. And we can be done with Humpy.
Humpy for halibut bait. That's what
Humpy, the Etsy witch, just all of it. And just be done with all of it. Just
take them all on the barge.
Hydros can stay. Everything else goes. Okay? Please, for the love of God. But Dan Wilson obviously is going to get a lot of criticism, and I get it. And I think there was a lot of moves that they made in this series in particular that I think you call into question whether or not. What I'd like to know with Dan Wilson is this, and I think what watching him manage this year and watching them manage in the postseason is, to me, and I think Game 7 last night was a prime example of it. I think they pre-script things way too much.
Yeah.
And I just think it's we've all coached, and I'm not trying to compare what he does to Chris and I's Little League coaching all-stars. But you go into every game with an idea of what you're going to do and how the game's going to play out.
Yeah.
But to me, it's always just a script. All right, well, or an outline. I want to use Johnny here in the 4th because Johnny can throw lots of strikes. But if Timmy's rolling, I'm leaving Timmy in the game.
Yeah.
And I think, and what I think bothers me about them is they've lost the feel of the game. And they allow, right, Jim? They just allow whatever that group of analysts that they have that I'm sure, comprises of DePoto and Hollander and the young math guys that they all have, they allow that to really infiltrate their decision-making. And it's just, Woo is coming in here, no doubt about it. We're definitely going to Bizzardo, and that's it. And there's no room, right, Jim, for just, what do my eyes tell me right now?
No, you're right, Puck. I think that he tended to overmanage as opposed to undermanaging after Carpenter hit the home run off of Kirby. And so he just wanted to, and this whole business of, boy, you never want to go a third time through a lineup because the hitter's more familiar with it. Well, if you got your A game going and you're George Kirby or Castillo or someone who's an elite pitcher, they don't give a shit if it's the 5th time through the lineup. No. They're still going to mow you down. And so with Kirby last night, you think Lou Piniella, he never really liked pitchers, but I think he would have looked at Kirby out there and, he would have been thinking in the back of his mind, well, God, Jerry told me this and Tonto told me that, but hell's bells, I'm going to stick with Kirby with what I'm seeing with my two own eyes. And so, if you want a second guess, sure. I mean, I thought Kirby should have stayed in longer too. The only trouble he had was in the 1st inning. And then the other thing with Woo, the Isaiah Kiner Falefa, the hyphenated guy, I mean, that ball could have been a double play grounder too. It's just, I don't want to say, well, it's baseball, because the guys who play baseball always say, well, that's baseball for you. Well, shit, it sucks sometimes too. I mean, that could have been a double play, and you can certainly make a case that Woo could have stayed out there longer.
Right.
I love the one, Jim, you'll hear from the dugout once in a while on those base hits, like, unlucky, like Bulls crap. But Buck, to your point, I'm with you, Lou. Sometimes I think going into this game, we heard so much from the national media, like, Dan Wilson, he can't be patient with his pitchers on this night. Yeah, but you can't be a robot too. You have to look at Kirby and realize he's dialed in right now. And if we know George Kirby, we know this from his post-game pressers. He doesn't get too high. He doesn't get too low. So for him, a Game 7 is like a spring training game. I mean, he was dialed in. There was no distraction there. So
Dave Roberts would have left him in last night. He would have left him in.
I would have loved to see him. And then I guess the question, and I'd love to hear from Divish on this, is, okay, you're making a decision to pull Woo out. I understand starting pitchers don't like to come in relief, but at that point, with your season on the line, don't you want the best pitcher you have available to go out there? And I just don't know if Bizarro is number one on my list there. I mean, I think I like Castillo, Miller, and Munoz in that situation even better. That's just my thought.
I think I know. I mean, I think at least in their back pocket, and I agree with you on that one. I think in their back pocket they were holding off on Castillo just in case it went extra innings. I would have, again, there's like three different things there. Right? One, do you leave Wu in there? I can certainly get into the camp of leaving Wu in there.
Yeah.
I would say, though, he did walk, the innings he was in. He walked a couple of guys. He put the leadoff runner on. I mean, so, and in that, before he left, he wasn't sharp. I mean, when he walked, I'm fine. I mean, those are 4 balls that were not close to the strike zone. So I think maybe he's getting a little fatigued a little bit and maybe get him out there. But I would say, who do you trust more in that situation? If you didn't want to go to Munoz, I mean, ask every Mariners fan. Do you Wu or Bizardo? And I know how great Bizardo has been. Bizardo's been fantastic, but everyone would say Wu. I would have, I mean, again, you take a step back, revisionist history, but I was waiting, and I thought the 7th inning was the perfect time, the absolute perfect time, because he's built for these moments. I would have turned to Bryce Miller, and I would have said to Bryce Miller, you have the 7th inning. I want you to unleash everything you have, because what Bryce Miller did in his 2 starts is what George Kirby did yesterday. It's what Bill Kruger said on yesterday's show. They need to live at the top of the line of the strike zone and pitch in. And what did he do? That's why he was successful yesterday. He didn't throw a bunch of breaking balls. I mean, he did every now and again, because they feast on that, and they went fastball heavy, and that's why he was effective. That's why Bryce Miller was effective. We get so caught up in this fucking spin. Spin. You know what works? Fastball.
Just throw some heat. Just fastball. And I would have loved to see Miller there and unleash, 20 pitches in that inning. And then you go to the 8th and 9th. Then you go to that, Then you go to Brash and Munoz, and Puck. Not only was Miller phenomenal against Toronto, you go back to his Detroit Tigers start. I mean, he had been pitching sharp, so I can't argue with that one. It just sucks that we can't go in a time machine and jump in the land.
I would have liked to see the person that when I text Chris Egan, I would have liked to see him in the game. Give me a submariner Austin Egan.
He maybe wanted bad. I'm telling you what, as a parent, I couldn't. I don't know what I would do if my kid was a pitcher in a big baseball playoff game like that.
Throwing up. Can you imagine being Bizardo's parents yesterday?
I almost threw up last night in the newsroom, guys. I had to walk away from everybody. Oh,
well, that's because one of the Swift girls brought bad shrimp cocktail.
That's what I do love about baseball. It brings everybody together, but it allows me to teach some of these these youngins about the sport. Like, we had one person in the newsroom go back to Game 6 when Gino Suarez barehanded that one and missed it, and they're just like, "God, get him out of the game! Just awful, just awful." And I go, "No, that's a really hard play there."
Who's your anchor over there that was in Toronto?
Jake Wittenberg.
Jake Wittenberg.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Can you tell him that I saw his Twitter video today? And
what was he doing?
God, it was so touching. I want you to convey that to him, please. Because I mean, as he left the Rogers Center, most Mariner fans are down in the dumps, and then old Jake, God, he happened upon a Canadian nickel on the ground, and he took that as being some sort of sign, as a good luck charm for the Mariners in the future. And so I really appreciate that. It was total bullshit on his part, but I appreciate the effort.
Well, let's put Wittenberg on the barge. He goes with Humpy. Sorry, Wittenberg.
That thing probably went viral, and he's going to make a bunch of extra cash on
his
YouTube.
Defense, he's been working 20-hour days. He's probably he's done a
Not
great
an
job.
Ask him to see that nickel, and ask him if you can rub it today.
Wittenberg goes on the barge with Humpy.
with Humpy.
God, I'm a
Oh,
dick. I'm sorry. Hey,
oh,
Jake,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm a dick. I can't help it. I'm retired. I'm, clueless,
Yeah.
all that
we
shit.
have. This is where we have to get stuff off our chest, Jim. I got in a fight with a Blue Jays fan 2 days ago. I thought I was going to get kicked
What
off
happened?
the air.
Well, Wittenberg was interviewing a Blue Jays fan, and then Egan started yelling at him.
He
And then
said
it became Canada versus America.
He
Egan was
said
getting
we're
really pissed.
Canada's team. It fired me up a little bit. I felt like it was Rocky IV, and I just had to let him have it.
Yeah.
And the producer came over and said, "Chris, I couldn't stop you." I go, "Well, you can always kill my mic." I mean,
It's been done before.
it's
All
it's
right,
happened.
Chris, we're
Yeah.
going to say goodbye. We'll
Yeah.
talk to you on Friday. We've got a big story to talk about on Friday. I'll tell you that.
Friday, okay, you got it, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, that skyline thing. Come on.
Yeah, we'll tease that. We're not
that,
gonna
yeah.
we're gonna get full into that on Friday.
Wow,
I got a
wow,
lot
wow,
to say about that
wow!
story.
That is prime big time. I'm excited to listen to Ryan though, guys. Magical stuff with you two this season.
Yep.
I'm not thanking anybody yet, but it was fun. It was a fun ride. Thank you, boys.
Yeah, go
you,
look
Chris.
for a nickel or a penny or something, would you?
Just leave him alone. Poor Wittenberg. Probably watching right
It
now.
was so heartfelt too. God, I looked down and there it was. And the guy on the nickel, he was looking directly at me. And I'm like, shut the hell up. Geez.
All I've been playing and humming in my head today, and I don't know if this is appropriate to bring on Divish. Just a little REM. You know the song, right?
Having a hard time hearing it.
You have a hard time hearing anything. Ladies and gentlemen, Ryan Divish joins us from Toronto inside a glorious hotel room. Inside pitch, Ryan Divish, Seattle Times. Oh, whoops, I just left him. There we go. Ryan Divish with us. Well, you were there. Obviously covered it all night long. What was that like? Watching Springer hit that, and then what unveiled after it, and then going into that clubhouse.
Yeah, I liken it to standing in line at the DMV, waiting to renew your license plates, and thinking, okay, this isn't too bad. I'm moving along quick. This is going well. And then you get up there and you find it's like $2,000 to renew your license plates. That's what it was like, just the build up, and then for 7 innings, you think they're going to win. Everything that they had done to win a game 7 kind of went by script, like get a good start from Kirby, strike early, get runs early, play with a lead. And then it all went south in the 7th. I was kind of jealous because like Adam Jude and I have been flipping game stories back and forth all postseason. And I was kind of jealous that I wasn't going to get it right, the game story of the Mariners making it to the World Series. And then when all hell broke loose, I'm like, go ahead, Jude, all good. It's fine. I could, it wasn't like when Scott brought in Robbie Ray in Houston. But like, you're busy writing and I'm busy trying to think about what I'm going to write. And when the door opened and it was Bizardo and it wasn't Munoz, I just kind of paused. And I should have known because like Munoz wasn't warming up. I should have known like, hey, it was Bizardo, but I looked at Adam and Tim. I'm like, what the hell? How are you not going to Munoz here? This is the leverage moment in the game. And I knew right then and there, whether it was good or bad, that's what I was going to be writing about. I didn't have the game story, I had the sidebar, the analysis piece. And I knew if it worked, and they somehow, even got only 1 run allowed and it held on, and they were able to use Munoz in the final 2 innings, that's what I'd be writing about. And if it didn't work, and I didn't know that it wouldn't work quite that badly, I knew that I'd be writing about that. But yeah, and it was just, basically, if you're a doomsday person and, you're like, well, I know it's Jim. Like, I'm sure when he steps up to the tee box, he's thinking to himself, like, well, I can't hook it left because I'll go out of bounds, and I don't want to leave it short, so I'm going to put it in the bunker, and then he just tops it. Like, if you're the doom and gloom person and you're thinking about the worst possible scenario in that situation that could happen, it happened. and it happened quick. One sinker in, or two sinkers, same pitch, two different locations, both missed. And, once he hit that, I didn't think the Mariners had a prayer. Honestly, this knowing that what a gut punch it was, you can tell yourself you're still in it, and that team bounces back mentally in games faster than anybody. But that was just a hammer to your gut that I just don't know that any team is going to ever recover from.
Okay, first of all, wise ass, if you want to put some money on your golf game against mine, I'm willing to take it. Okay, so we'll do that.
Well, do you play from the yellow tees because you're like 60?
I probably should, so I'm going to give you that. But I just had an Austrian friend of mine in town, and he insisted on playing the blues, and so we played 6,500 yards. Is that long enough for you?
Yeah. What did you shoot?
Oh, I was in the 90s most of the time.
I'll be fine then.
Okay. All right.
I know you're carrying a ton of sand in your pocket, so.
Oh, really? Really? Okay. More importantly than our golf games. Okay, Bizzardo, is this true? I didn't realize this because everybody's talking about it, that he had 70 some appearances. And I think even Bizzardo talked about it, that he had never lost a game for the Mariners this year. Yeah. And so that's something in Wilson's favor to bring him in if that's true about him. The only thing I had a problem with was that he pitched 2 innings the night before, and I just wasn't sure if he was going to be as sharp as he normally would be.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's got a rubber arm. It isn't that. Springer saw him the night before. Saw him earlier in the series. The last time, when Springer saw Andres Munoz? July 7th, 2024. Munoz doesn't give up home runs on that slider.
Yeah.
That's the worst possible scenario, is giving up a home run. In that scenario, you have runners on second and third, nobody out, or one out. One out. You're trying to get out. You're not trying, fly ball, whatever, ground ball, they get a run, fine. But you're trying to get a strikeout first and foremost. Who's your best strikeout guy? Like, the Mariners' whole pitching philosophy, when they tell their pitchers, if you're going to get beat with your best. Is Edward Bizzardo their best closer or best reliever? That's the whole point. And I kind of see what Dan was doing, because I think in their mind, they were going to use Munoz for the 8th and 9th. But if you do the math on this, so let's say you bring in Munoz, he gets Springer out, even if they get 1 run, then he retires Nathan Lucas. That means Vlad is back, gets pushed back an inning. You extend Munoz to the 8th. He pitches against Vlad, whatever. He goes, let's say he gets 4 guys out. Then you get to the 9th. And you've gone through the batting order. Vlad has no chance of coming up. And whoever you're bringing in the 9th, whether it's Bryce Miller, Matt Brash, they're facing the bottom of the order. Like, you can count it out how to keep Vlad from coming to the plate in the 9th inning without the game on the line. And they could have done that. But they went to Bizzardo because that's what they've always done. And that's the one thing I was talking with Booth and Jude about, is like, they managed it 2 different ways in the postseason. There were times where Dan reverted to all the stuff he did in the regular season and how he wanted to manage a game in the regular season. And there were times where he was ultra aggressive, managing it like the modern postseason style. I don't know that you can bounce back and forth all the time. I think you have to have one philosophy and stick with it, and it's not like, it isn't just about this decision. I mean, this decision ultimately cost them Game 7, but you can go back and count some of the other decisions throughout the playoffs that cost them wins. That series against the Tigers didn't need to be a 5-game marathon. You didn't have to be that stressful. You didn't have to put your pitchers through all that. I think had they done some things differently in the games leading up to Game 7, there might not have even been a Game 7. And I think that's a problem. So, I don't blame it on Dan specifically. That moment changed the game. But, they had opportunities to add and didn't do it.
Right.
They had opportunities to add and didn't do it. They had some opportunities to make some plays and they didn't do it. So, you look at the numbers, the bottom 3 of their order, of the Blue Jays order, hit like 450. The bottom 3 of the Mariners order, they put up a batting average like, a model, sub 100. So it's just, that's a problem. There were a lot of things. Just the factor of Dan making that decision will always linger as something that went wrong, and all the things that went wrong. That's what's going to be the most prescient. Is it fair? Maybe not, but that's the way it's going to be.
Okay, Ryan, you're there and you see it behind the scenes and everything. What I've wondered this year is if I'm Scott Service and I see Josh Naylor and Gino Suarez coming to Seattle, I'm thinking, man, I could have been a better manager too if they'd given me those players. I'm just wondering, from your perspective, is Dan Wilson a better manager than Service, worse, or about the same?
I think they're all, like, if you grade them on the whole, they're probably about the same. But like, maybe you trust Scott's in-game mechanics more because it's more numbers based or more like matchup based than Dan, who's more old school. Scott was more willing to make changes on the fly than Dan was. I mean, I think you could make the argument that Randy Arozarena should have stopped hitting leadoff about 1st of August. There are things, but like, to get to where they needed to get to this year, I think Dan was important because he took the grip off the team and gave it to the players. I think that Scott, for so many years, because he had such a young team and they were rebuilding, he was kind of the voice and the leader, and he had kind of his finger on the team and dictated so much. But that when these guys grew up, he still wanted to be that voice and that kind of steering that direction, when really he needed to be the players to do it. And I think Dan came in and gave a lot of the freedom and a lot of the control to the players. And I think that resonated with the players. And I think that's why you see Cal Raleigh have a 60 home run season, in part because, Scott didn't play Cal as much as Dan did. Dan let him go out there and bat right-handed and do all these different things, and gave Cal more freedom to take control of what he wanted to take control of than I think Scott would have. Maybe Scott would have changed throughout the season. I don't know. But I mean, that in that way, I think Dan, the players like Dan, because he gave the power back to the team. He let the team kind of decide the outcome of games instead of maybe trying to force the outcome through managerial moves.
Divish, again, Ryan Divish is Seattle Times with us. We talked about this a little bit with Egan. I just think my issue with them all year long, and again, is it seems scripted with these guys. It just seems like it's destined they're going to do something before we even get into the game. And
like their pitching plan?
A lot of things. And again, and this is why I know everyone wants to go right to Dan Wilson. What I'm trying to say, this is not just a Dan Wilson decision. There is an army of people making these decisions of what they're going to do. And yes, I know you've got a plan yesterday of how they wanted to use Wu. And you mentioned, and I take an issue with him, what he said last night. We've always gone to Bizarro. This is what we've done all year long. This is not the regular season anymore. You can't manage it like the regular season. This is you have your best reliever sitting down there. By the way, significantly better ground ball percentage than Edward Bizardo. Significantly better on the strikeouts. If you wanted to induce a double play, he's the guy that would get it. Yeah, hasn't pitched. You pointed out, hasn't seen Springer in over a year. And Bizardo had been in this postseason 9 times. He had faced the Blue Jays 4 times, and Springer had seen him 3 times. Yeah. And it's just, I think they get so programmed. Nope, we use Bizardo here. We can't adjust. And it just, I think that line of thinking surprises me with him. And there's a lot of other, decisions that go in. It's not just a pitching decision. I think it's the way they use the platoons. It's always right, left. It's got to be that way because some analytical person tells us it has to be that way. Whoever the analytical person that pointed out, and credit Jim, you brought this up. There is no, I don't think, an argument that Jorge Polanco hits better when he plays second base. And this series proves it. Look at his numbers in the first 3 games when he played second base. He was killing it. The last 4 games when they DH'd him, terrible. Now, again, maybe you would just say, hey, that's just baseball and it's just the way the ebbs and flows of the game. But Divish, you've covered it. Guys like to play in the field who play in the field, and playing just DH can affect them at the plate. But I just think that there is so much pre-programming with this coaching staff, and that's problematic to me.
I don't think it's just this coaching staff. I think it's most of baseball that does it. I think Dan will go off the page a little bit more because, like, Scott would program in, his bullpen decisions based on what he called pockets or hitters in situations like leverage situation. You have these guys coming up. Who do we want to face them? Who's our best guy to match up with these guys? For 3 batters, whatever, the pockets he called it. Dan was more rigid to always wanting to pitch Munoz in the 9th in the save situation or 9th at home in a tie game. Use him in the 9th. Munoz kind of liked the idea of knowing that he was always going to come in around that time, whereas before he may come in the 8th, even the 7th with Scott. I think, but you're right, how Dan did it with innings essentially more than matchups was more old school. I don't know that Jerry and Justin like that. I'm sure if you put a lie detector on both of them, they would say and they said they were fine with Bizarro, it would go off crazy because I think they both would have rather had Munoz go in there. The lineup stuff, it's the platoons. The platoons are set up like if you have platoons. Part of the thing is like you have to play them. If your roster is set up to have platoons and that's not Dan's call, he don't make any roster decisions.
Right.
Then you kind of have to play them. I mean, the problem is they had an imperfect lineup in the sense that like they would rather have Polanco at DH, but then you didn't have any freedom to make moves to use your bench guys. Canzone is and Polanco is not a great fielder. Like, Rivas made some plays that Polanco simply is not going to make. Canzone, not a good outfielder. Robles a better outfielder, but Robles wasn't hitting, and Canzone really wasn't hitting. So like they had some issues with their lineup that they just couldn't remedy by playing one way or the other. And what we saw is that like how you play in the regular season, even in your lineup, and how you produce offense is a lot different in the postseason because the pitching is simply better. You're not beating up on middle relievers. You don't see those guys. So I mean, I think in some ways it exposed who they are in a little bit. The pre-programming, I think they were hoping, like they go into it yesterday, like you're planning out, because we were talking about it. So you're going into the game and you're thinking, okay, if you can get George Kirby through the lineup twice with minimal, where he doesn't, have him pitching well twice, you take that as a win. Then you said, so that's maybe 4 innings, 3 innings, 4 innings. Then you think you'll have Wu for 2. You have Munoz for 2. That's 8. And then you have some combination of Brash, Bryce, Bizardo, Spire to find you to get you 3 outs for 1, or if you want to count up the outs. George got them, what did he get him? He went 4 innings. So he got him 12 outs. You could have logically, and they didn't want to start Wu in the middle of an inning. And I understand that. Logically, you could have pushed George for 1 more inning and reduce the number of outs. Now, I've been critical because I think Dan sometimes tries to steal an extra out or 2 from a reliever that's clearly doesn't have it. But I thought George was rolling pretty good, and I thought he was in a rhythm. And if he does allow base runners, then you go to your leverage guy like they did the game before when they brought in Wu and they went to Bizardo, go to your leverage guy. So, like, say Wu starts the 5th, gives up like a 2-out hit. Then you go to Bizardo or whatever. Then you bring the leverage in, have them finish the inning. Then you can bring in Wu clean for the next inning. And then you've stolen an inning by some combination of George Kirby and one of your leverage guys. So then you're through 5 innings. You got 4 to cover. You think you can get 2 from Wu and then 2 from Munoz. And if you need an emergency, you have Bryce and those guys. I think you could have played it that way a little differently. I mean, I thought Kirby was rolling pretty well. I thought he had found the fastball and a little bit of rhythm in the last couple innings that made him more effective. But I also understand the thinking is you don't want him facing the top of the order a 3rd time because they really do damage. So I don't know. I mean, nothing about George, especially after the 1st inning, I thought he was in perfect command of everything. And his fastball had so much movement and so much life that he was going to, that he could keep going. I mean, it had ticked down maybe a mile per hour. But again, the adrenaline of trying to get through 1 more inning and then that idea of emptying the tank. I mean, I wouldn't have hated like sending George back out there. I didn't. When they didn't, I was like, okay, yeah, they hoped for 4 or they'd hope for 3 and they got 4. So maybe they felt like they were playing out with house money.
Ryan, I saw you look at your watch at one point, and I've got 2 questions for you.
I'm not no, it's not time. My watch is buzzing because I'm getting messages.
Okay, well then I have time to ask both questions.
Yeah, we can do whatever. I'm good for whenever. How long you want to go?
Okay, here's the question I have. It's speculation and all that. back when the Sonics lost to the Bulls in the 96 finals, everybody talked about, boy, if they just had Nate McMillan. What I'm wondering is if Brian Wu had been healthy, do you think we'd be talking about them being in the World Series? Or did Miller do enough as a starter? Certainly he was good as a starter, but then you would have him in the bullpen if Wu was a starter, because he wouldn't have started any games if Wu had been healthy.
No, I think Bryce Miller replicated the success that Wu could have given you. You know, he had the one shaky outing in Detroit, but you look at what he did in the ALCS. That's as good as you could have hoped for from Wu or Castillo or anybody. So I think, but a healthy Brian Wu does give you some options. Maybe it isn't Bryce that's the one who's automatically sent to the bullpen. Maybe they were to readjust it for the LCS, put Bryce back in the rotation, and just not use Castillo or somebody else, or you know, readjusted how they use Gilbert. I do think, like, you know, for a long time as a writer and, you know, analyzing baseball and fans, we always said if the Mariners just got into the playoffs, their starting pitching would carry them. But I think we've looked at it to see that, like, the starting pitching and how everything works in the playoffs is so different that, like, taking the regular season success of the starting pitchers and then placing them in the postseason is different. You know, it's not to say that they aren't good pitchers. I think you look at what they have the capability of, and if they weren't injured all season, deal with injuries, I think it might be different. But, you know, dominating starting pitching in the regular season doesn't necessarily mean dominating pitching in the postseason.
No, it doesn't. And certainly Logan Gilbert's going to have a forgettable ALCS. I mean, he was a disappointment. There's no way around it. But therein lies a rub with me about an organization that props up their starting pitching as much as this organization does, and yet didn't trust one of their guys to at least go one more inning. And that's just a hard thing for me today to sit back and swallow. And maybe it doesn't change anything. I don't know, but it lengthens it out, and then you can get to Munoz later. But again, to your point, and you're right, you're 100% right that they thought to themselves, we get through two turns through the rotation or through the lineup, 4 innings, we're great with that. But when you look, that's what I go back to the pre-programming thing. But when you looked at where he was at after that 4th inning, he was pitching them perfectly. Exactly what others have talked about, top of the line, fastball, inside. That's how you can beat them. And he did it perfectly. And then they decided, no, we had the script. We got to go to it now. And that's just, I don't know. I think for Hollander and DePoto and those guys, if you prop up these starters as much as we do, let's see them. Let them pitch. They're starters for a reason. They're your best pitchers, not your relievers.
Yeah, I think the thing is too is, like, if you really break down that situation, even in his first outing in the postseason, Wu's command on the first couple of hitters wasn't great.
Right.
Yeah, if you recall, he dotted a certain guy, you know, with a sinker and everything else. My thing is like, George isn't going to walk the leadoff hitter of the 5th inning. The guy might get a hit to get on, but you're not walking Barger on 5 pitches and really kind of bringing some life into it, you know. And the one thing is too, George does get some ground balls. So it's like, say you know, even if like Barger would have got a hit to get on, you know, you take your chances with him against Kiner Falefa and Jimenez and then go from there. I mean, I just think that, you know, or even then you can go, like, if you don't like the matchup with Jimenez, but you can make an adjustment. I just think that's the one thing that killed the whole inning is Wu walking the first guy, but you're also asking a starter who's not used to coming in from the bullpen to be crisp in a situation that he's not used to. That's a tough ask. I mean, I know why they wanted to use Wu, and I think he's their best pitcher in a lot of regards, but you're also asking him to be one of the best pitchers, having not thrown very much in the last 3 weeks and in a situation and a role that he's not used to on any level. So, yeah, I would have, like, if they would have brought Kirby back out for the 5th inning and let him start it, even if he would have gotten into trouble, I would have understood it just because he was pitching so well in the 3rd and the 4th. And I thought he had found a rhythm and he was throwing so well. Because then also you're trying to steal an out or two, but you have a lead to steal an out or two. And you can, you know, you can offset that because you have all these leverage guys that you're asking to go in and get a couple outs. And it's not a situation too, like even with Bizzardo, say you started with Kirby the 5th,
he gave up the leadoff runner, maybe got an out or whatever. Then you decided to go to Bizzardo because, you know, you want a leverage guy. At least he's familiar with the leverage situation, and you're just trying to piece together a couple outs to get to a clean inning for Wu.
I know Jim will probably go ahead, Jim.
Well, everyone's going to wonder about the three primary free agents that they hope to re-sign with Naylor, Suarez, and Polanco. What's the likelihood they get all three, or do you think it's going to be one of three, two of three, none of three? And I would think at this point, Naylor's looking at $20 million a year, if not more.
Yeah, I think if you get two of three, you're ecstatic. I don't know that they're going to give Eugenio Suarez $15 million a year or whatever, you know, he's been paid. You know, I don't know that he gets it on the open market either. I think with Polanco, because he's only been in these two organizations, the Twins and the Mariners, and he has a high level of comfort here, I think you can get him back. You're not getting him back at $8 million a year. You're probably having to give him what you gave Garver, which is like $12 million a year for 2 years with a vesting option. Naylor, you're right. I mean, he's staring at $100 million probably, and you have to pay the freight of him becoming a fan favorite and him fitting your team so well. Like, you went out and got him. The fit is there. The fit is obvious, and he seems to like Seattle. But you can't just rely on that to get him. You know, you have to go out there and probably pay more than the market value. Because if you address it as a need, if you look at it and say, we need to fill this spot, here's the perfect guy, we know he fits, we know he brings things to our team that we don't have, then you can't be afraid to pay for it. You know, you can't be afraid to like say, well, we want all of that, but we want it on our terms, or we want it at a discount. No, that's not how it works. Guy's never been a free agent before. I think it helps them that there's not a lot of markets out there searching for free first baseman. And I can't imagine Josh Naylor playing in New York and wanting to play in New York. But like, that doesn't, you can't take for granted that all these things line up and you're just automatically going to get him. You have to go out there and pay more. I mean, if you want something bad enough, you're willing to pay more than you thought you were going to get, you know, like that you had budgeted. If it's that important to you, if it's that important to your success, then you can't be afraid to pay more than what you originally planned because you need it. You know, I mean, like, sorry, like, I mean, Puckett, if your washing machine goes out tomorrow, are you going out there and waiting to get the cheapest one you can just because that's what your budget is? Or, you know, you got 50 loads of laundry, screaming wife and kids, you're paying to get a washing machine that next day so you can do it. I mean, the Mariners have to treat Josh Naylor like a need. It's a need, not a like addition. You need it to, you know, because they don't have a first baseman. And I mean, you know, I guess 4 years, $18 million a year with an option for 5. I don't know. You know, it's hard to say. I wouldn't have thought he would have gotten $100 million 2 months ago, but maybe he gets closer to that now.
Hey, I know Jim will echo this. A terrific job by the entire group over there at the Seattle Times, in particular yourself. Welcome back. You are not the curse. The team was rolling. Then you came back, and they actually did really, really well. There was a lot of people that were very concerned with your return that they would go in the tank, but they did not. Also, to Tim Booth and Adam Jew, just a phenomenal job reading all of you guys' work. Well done.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, like, you know, you got to think. It's not often I do this, but I got to thank my bosses for like investing in the coverage, you know, to send Tim and Adam and me and Mike Varell. I mean, even like they sent me and Adam to Houston for a regular season series because they knew it was important. And I mean, the Mariners fans were reading our stuff and we got our numbers say it was as big as ever. So, and Jim, don't be mean to Jake Wittenberg. He's a sweet kid who is from Helena, Montana, or Billings, Montana, which is school in Helena. He's even a Bobcat, but he's so nice. Like, and I
know I played golf with him one time, but you would have ripped him for that video too.
I don't, yeah, but I don't look at that stuff. I mean, well, I mean, he's a nice guy and he's a fan, and I mean, like, come on.
I know. I'm going to go out and look for an American nickel today, and then I'm going to put it on Twitter and say, "Hey, Mariner fans, look what I found."
You are the worst.
I know I'm the worst. I don't care.
You are 10 steps away from being
the worst.
Clint Eastwood in Gran Torino.
Oh, it's 10 steps away. He's already there.
Maybe I'm Michael Douglas in Falling Down.
I'm already
him.
Yeah, you're past that. So.
Okay, but yeah, I will echo what Puck said.
Sure.
God, you're sitting there ripping me, and I'm ready to give you a compliment. You guys at the Times did a terrific job. You really did, and you're good people too, and I like you guys. And I just remember being in those situations in the NBA Finals, and you're wanting to be at your best, and you're probably tired. I was worn out during the NBA Finals, but you knew your peers were reading that. Sonics fans were reading, Mariner fans reading your stuff, and you wanted to be at the top of your game, and you know how historical this is, what you're writing about.
And
so
people are still waiting
for what you did.
People are still waiting for you to be on top of your game.
Talking about Divish or me?
One day.
Both of us.
One day.
Both of us. I thought my game story for Game 6 sort of matched the Mariners' performance. It was
all good.
Ugly.
Thank you, Divish. Appreciate it. We will visit again. We'll maybe give you this week off, tomorrow off. Since
I'll see you at High Cedars, pal.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna tee it up at High Cedars.
I don't like that place. It's too narrow. We got to go someplace more open. Like
High Cedars isn't that narrow.
Yeah, nice.
There's houses. I'd rather go to like home course.
Thank you, Divish.
Yeah, see you guys.
There he is, Ryan Divish, the Seattle Times. He joins me every single week. All brought to you by Chalet Bowl. Big thanks to Reggie and the family. We'll continue to have Divish on, but I want to say a big thank you to the Frederick family for sponsoring Ryan throughout the baseball season, even when he was on the sabbatical. Big thanks to Chalet Bowl and chaletbowl.com. Hey, our next guest joining us. This is a thrill for me. I love this guy. You love this guy. America loves this guy. One half of the legendary sportscast, the podcast, the SportsPit. Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Stretch Johnson from the compound in Shoreline, Washington, where he watched it last night and probably was even keeled watching George Springer hit a 3-run home run. Stretchy, where does this one rank?
Oh, it's right there next to the it's right there next to the interception. I mean, it's right there. I was hi Jim. It's actually Jim, good to see you. Great to see you.
It's good to see you too. Where's the other half of the sports bit? What happened to him?
He's actually making more money than all of us put together. So he's working and he definitely gets a flyer on this one. But it was stunning. It's heartbreaking. I walked around aimlessly here, no sound, watched the Seahawks game with no sound on. I then got in my car. I filled out my ballot. I then got in my car and drove around. I went to the Shoreline Library and dropped off my ballot and then drove up and down I-5. And I'm being serious. It was shocking. I was just absolutely shocked and heartbroken. It's right. I don't know. And then I thought of all these things to talk to you about. And it was just like, everyone's different, right? Everyone is different. But I felt so bad for the players. I felt so bad for the guys that I really like, and Kevin Martinez and Tim Hevley and Randy Adamak. I felt terrible for those guys. And then I felt terrible and heartbroken for true Mariner fans, regardless. I don't think there's a credit thing, regardless of how long they go back, right? I go back to 1977. So I thought I'd show you this. This is the first ticket. I was a ticket stub guy growing up. I have all my tickets. My mom and dad dropped me off at grandma's house because they were going to go watch Frank Tanana just shut down the Mariners. And then game 2 was Nolan Ryan. But I went to plenty of games in 77. And I remember, the junior Mariners starting and we sit out in those shitty left field seats for $5. And my dad would be like, yeah, we'll meet you such and such a place in the 8th inning, because he wasn't going to go out there, and nor was he going to walk us out there. God bless him. So there are just so many memories. And then I started thinking of the roller coaster that we were lucky enough to be on. And I mean, like Sam Meyer says, everybody can fan differently, but the roller coaster that started the Tuesday versus the Rockies game for me is not only incredible, but I'll never forget it, right? Josh Naylor's double, and I had great seats, watching Julio fly around the bases with that double to clinch a playoff spot. And then Wednesday I went and Cal Raleigh hit those 2 home runs out. And then Thursday I went, and I only went because my buddy said, no, you actually owe it to the guys to go. You actually owe it to the team. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? He goes, think about it. You got to go down. They're exhausted. You got to go down And then, that was 17 of 18 wins. And then I was lucky enough to go to every home playoff game. I had a ticket. I have an airline ticket to LA for Thursday. I was going down to LA and figuring out what my budget was for the games 1 and 2. I had 3 games I had World Series tickets for all 3 games, but it was just, I was thinking, when you just took it out of when have I felt like this? And then I started thinking of, and Jim, you've had this, like, regardless of the ups and downs, regardless of how my career might have ended, I had 11 amazing years with the Seahawks. I was very, very, very fortunate. And this was as close to that feeling of that interception. I had amazing seats with Rabel, right behind Rabel and Moon, behind the press box, and watching that interception and that didn't just happen. When Springer hit it out, I was immediately, that didn't just happen. Denial. I'm really good with denial. I don't know about Jim, if you're good with denial. There's some facets of like that didn't, then the gut punch, and then the shock, and then watching the 2 innings. And that was very comparable, and wasn't even the World Series, but that was comparable to the interception. And then for some reason, I just started going through memories, right? I started, all right, Marshawn Lynch is maybe the best thing I'd witnessed. I watched American Pharaoh win the Triple Crown in Belmont Park with my father after my mother had just passed. And that was so moving. I mean, like I was in tears with my dad, watching those things. And then you're kind of celebrating sports. You're like, yeah, this is the gut punch. This is why we love sports, are the high highs and the low lows. And it's just absolutely like, and then we come back. And then we come back because it's our team, and it's Cal Raleigh, and regardless of, you give Dipoto credit for trade deadline, that it's above that. It's way higher level than that. It's like, this is why we come back, because that shit hurts. That hurts. And that's why we're sports fans. And so I went through all this, and I'm driving up I-5. Literally, I'm driving up I-5 with nowhere to go last night because I wanted to be out of the house, and I didn't, and it was just silence in my house. I have to watch games generally by myself because I can't stand when people talk at the wrong times, and that's my issue. I do have issues, and that's my issue. I can't let people hear. My one buddy gets in because he knows baseball. Not that I know baseball. Don't get me wrong. I'm not this savant. But that's how I have to watch. And all of a sudden, I'm driving. I'm up past Everett, and Jim, you can appreciate this. I was like, oh, I might as well go to the Quilceda Casino. I'm 6 minutes away. And then I'm like, no, don't grief gamble. Then you'll spend too much money. So then I turned around and I just started driving home, and I got home, and it was just like, it was just so shocking, It was, in regard, I just can't get on Twitter and read, like, Ryan Divish. I mean, you guys know what the hell you're talking about and looking at. And I mean, do you intentionally walk Springer regardless who comes in? Do you bring Spire in for Lucas? Do you regardless? I'm coming from a fan perspective who went to games in 77, 78, and that's shitty baseball. And we would just go back. I don't know what my dad was thinking. Maybe he was thinking it's better than being at home, and it's like a movie, right? We get to go to a movie, and he had tickets all over the place, great seats. We went to tons of bad baseball. And but this is your team getting gut punched. And it's just, I don't know when you get over this. Maybe you get over it in spring training. Maybe you never get over this. I mean, I still think that if the Seahawks win that Super Bowl, it changes the trajectory of the locker room, and it's a completely different vibe. And you're maybe on to 3 more. You might even be a better team the 3rd year. I really think that. And then there's more investment. And I remember coming out of that broadcast booth, and Paul Allen's walking by me, and he is white. I mean, he is white, pale white, in shock. And I'm thinking, yeah, it's probably worse for him. But I was just sitting there in shock, like, shit. And that's what last night was. Springer, gets beamed on the knee at 96 and then hits a 3-run bomb. And but fuck the Dodgers also. So I'm screwed. I'm super screwed because the Dodgers are my most hated team. So I will watch every pitch. I will watch every single pitch. I don't know who I'm probably not cheering for either team. I'm not cheering for the Dodgers, so I don't know where that leaves me. I don't have many options. But it's truly shocking. It's truly shocking because you're that close. You're up 3-1 in the 7th, That fucking meatball that got thrown up there, Bizzardo, not a meatball, the ball that was thrown, I mean, just crushed. And it was like you knew it right away that your little run, your roller coaster, and you thank the guys for taking you on this roller coaster, and it's over. It's over. It's over. And so, that's where I'm at. I appreciate I kind of owe you guys some money for therapy, but
no, that's all right. Well, the first thing I thought of when Springer hit the home run, I didn't think that, gee, in a half an hour or so, I'm going to be driving up and down I-5 and going by the Quilceda Casino. No, I didn't think about that. I thought to myself, hey, Jim, why in the world did you put an extra $100 on the Mariners 5 minutes before the first pitch? You already have 200 on them. Do you really need to have 300 on them? I was selfishly thinking about that.
Well, since I can so relate to that, it got to be in the Detroit series where I ended up putting money on Detroit because I was baseball. Such a tough. No. Hear me out. Okay. I kept losing and losing and losing. And a friend of mine down the hill there at the tavern said, will you do me a favor and do all Mariner fans a favor and put money on Detroit, please? Because you're the worst baseball gambler there is in the Puget Sound area. And so I understand you were 6, 7, 8 outs away from cashing. Baseball's a tough one to gamble on. But
they all are, Matt.
Yes, you're right. You're right. Except for this past weekend in the NFL when all the favorites came in, but that's a whole nother segment. It's tough. It's tough. And it's so wild. When I was with the Sounders, and you'd lose a heartbreaker whenever. Soccer is this kind of like NFL, you have 7 days and you're just like, you're gutted. So that's one of the soccer terms. You're just gutted. And that's where I was last night. And then you come back and it's Wednesday and Thursday. And then Friday, you're not only researching the other team, but you focus to the next team. And then here you go. Here's a new story. Here it is. But obviously, Captain Obvious here up in Shoreline will tell you the ending of the season gives you nothing because I don't want either team to win. I certainly don't want the Dodgers to win. I think there's guys on Toronto I could cheer for. Definitely. I think Vladimir Guerrero, there's good guys. I hate the Dodgers. So there's good guys, but our team was special, right? Go up and down the lineup. Whether Canzone can hit or not, you like the guy. Whether Rivas swings at that pitch, a couple different pitches that were a foot away, you like the guy. Raleigh, love the guy. Julio, you just go through this list, and that's not being a homer. These are good dudes, and that's where I was like, man, gutted for them, gutted for the city, gutted for true Mariner fans whenever they jumped on. So, yeah, that's where I'm at.
Do you think they can recover? I mean, you brought up something. You never get over stuff like this. I don't think fans and players have got to at some point, but they always talk about, right, Stretch, that they remember the losses more than they ever remember the wins, and it'll be interesting to see where this takes this organization. How does ownership respond to this?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Because you've got pending free agents, and do they sense this like, all right, we were so close, now there's even more of a commitment to go further, or is it, well, God, we kind of got by with like piecemealing some stuff, we made some moves, so we're just going to continue to go down that road. So I'll be real interested to see how ownership responds, to this, right? I think back to when, God, who was it? Phil Knight at Oregon. You remember he tells the story all the time. He's at the Rose Bowl, 94, Penn State, Oregon. He's like, oh, I get it now. I'm going to be more involved now. And then now Oregon is what they are. And I wonder if there's going to be something similar with this ownership group. I hope there is.
Well, not to slam our ownership group, but Phil Knight's a different deal than our ownership group. I think it's more black and white. Not unfortunately, but they made the moves. They definitely witnessed what will happen in the stands, concessions, parking when there is just a crazy fan base, right? Mm-hmm. It's not just 47,000. It's 47 stuffed looking for extra seats on StubHub, right? And so if you put a product here in Seattle on at any organization, people show up. It's a hell of a fan base, but they have to look at it where I think it was so obvious how long the Blue Jays lineup was and how many holes there were at the end, how many holes there were for the Mariners. Suarez hole, Canzone hole, Crawford Crawford helped by how many times was he helped out by Naylor at first base, digging out, I mean, massive throws that were amazing for a major, love Crawford, but were amazing for a major league shortstop. How many throws were in the dirt? How many throws one hopped him, so on and so forth. At the end, there's a filter. You keep going through the playoffs. NHL playoffs are the perfect thing. There's a filter, and it keeps going and going and going. Blue Jays, I believe, were a better team. Now, if you can say, hey, the Seattle starters didn't show up, I'm on that. I'm on that program. But the lineup, Jimenez, I don't know. We'll see what Jimenez does against the Dodgers. Jimenez looked like Babe Ruth. He looked like an amazing slap hitter that should be hitting 320. But their lineup dominated our lineup for length, for productivity, and especially for pressure putting on the other team. I mean, it didn't matter if it was here or there. They were on first base, it seemed like, with no outs, quite a few innings, right? And that's what Dipoto's looking at. He's looking at contact again. They have to wake up and they have to make decisions. Excuse me, again, they know this, but the day after World Series, if it's still the same, 2 days after the World Series, you're making big time decisions. And you have to get a guy who, I don't know if you call it that Canzone went in the tank at the wrong time, but he looked, as again, my father would say, overmatched. He looked overmatched. And it is what it is.
He looked nervous. He didn't look.
Yeah, his eyes can't lie, right? His eyes don't lie. His eyes were like, holy shit, that splitter. I knew he was throwing the splitter.
Just
and
no
I still
confidence.
swung. Yeah. And it's a terrible time to have no confidence, because in July he had confidence.
Right.
In that run, he had confidence. Crawford overmatched. Suarez gave me one of the thrills of my life, right? Gave me one of the thrills of my life. He looks overmatched. He had a single yesterday, and that was nice. But how many times was he striking out? And then how many times with runners in scoring position and 2 outs, or unfortunately 1 out or less, there was no productivity. And so that's what you're looking at. But Toronto seemed longer. I mean, name a player on Toronto that looked tough, looked overmatched at the plate. It wasn't Varsho. It wasn't the little fire hydrant fucking catcher. It wasn't any of these guys. They all looked fine behind the plate, up at bat. All of them. Clement, I don't want to say never heard of the guy, but never heard of the guy. And I mean, Lucas, dominant. Springer, above us. Above us.
No, I know. I thought his name
above
was
us.
Luke's. Matt, I thought his name was Luke's. I didn't know
Yes.
that guy.
Yeah. So did I until game 2, because I
you know-
said that in game 1, and my brother's like, and my brother doesn't correct anybody. It's Lucas. I'm like, go to hell. nice guy.
They're 1 through 9. I didn't think that they would be better than Seattle, but their 1 through 9 was. And I think they approach at bats the way I've heard this Mariners front office talk about how they want to approach at bats for 5 years.
Yes, absolutely.
And
Absolutely. Their bottom of their lineup, well, the last 2/3 of their lineup dominated ours. I remember being at home and looking in the 6th and 7th, like, oh, Suarez is on deck. We have to do something here.
Right. Yeah.
We have to do something here. And that's the feeling. And come on, that's also very, I don't know if it's a word, it's very scoutable for the other team.
Sure.
All right, pitch around this guy. Pitch around this guy. We got Suarez, who will just swing high, swing middle, and then swing away. He'll go fishing for that outside and away. But their bottom third of their lineup, if not more, 5-6 hitters down there. That's more than that. But they dominated our pitching. They dominated. There was not an easy out on their side, and you can name 4, 5. Robles was in there, 5 outs. And so I think to Ryan Divish's, again, total, unbelievable job the Times did, and Ryan Divish and the whole group. And I think how he said it was, it's not only a splash for Naylor. I mean, they would make a statement, but they're also going to go back in the restraints and constraints of Mariner ownership. Let's not get too crazy that this run changed anything, because there is a core. There's a pitching core. There's Julio. There's Cal. I'd be shocked if they bring back Suarez. I'd be completely shocked. They fill the hole at first with Naylor, hopefully, and then you go from there. But right field is still, how about trade some farm guys to Detroit for Carpenter? I know they're not going to do that. But there's plenty of work to be done. But let's not think that just because the ownership in Dipoto and his group witness this, that things really change. Let's not. That's an emotional side of things. They're going to be black and white and move forward, but they still have a core. And you're right. The starters are their strength, and they didn't. More times than not, they didn't show up.
No,
I mean,
they didn't.
Logan Gilbert, when a guy is on full rest like Logan Gilbert and Kirby last week, and they lay an egg, that's shocking. That's shocking. They're young guys, and the other guys are doing what they're supposed to do. It's shocking. That adds to the shock.
I'm glad you came on today, to give your perspective. You're the best. I love talking baseball with you, and I know everyone loves to hear your perspective on it.
Thank you. And we'll get through this. And Jim Moore, I want to say this on the air because you flipped Jim Moore way too much shit. I got let go from the Sounders, and Jim Moore was one of the first texts I received. And Jim, I appreciate it. And I'm not joking. And I know you and I had shared this. We got laid off. We were in that, you just have this weird feeling. And Jim, I always appreciated you reaching out to me a couple different tough times in my life. And I mean that sincerely.
Oh, well, yeah, Matt, and I know the feeling. And so I appreciate you appreciating that. It's it sucks to get fired, man. It does. And so, and you know what you found probably is like I did and other people who get fired, that if a little time goes by, and it turns out to be a blessing in disguise. So hopefully that's the case with you too. Yeah,
it took a few bottles of Crown Royal and a couple more months maybe than I expected, but everything's fine and no regrets. But I mean,
you still hate the people who fired you, though. I mean, I'm still bitter and resentful and all that. I want to see Mike Salk with a cardboard sign on a freeway off ramp.
Okay.
I didn't need. Sorry, Jason.
Here we go.
Well, no, I do. I really want to see that.
I know you're on record.
Yeah.
You're on record.
It's on my bucket list to
before.
see that.
We know.
That's not
all
where
right.
That's not where we wanted to go.
Thank you,
Thanks
Matt,
for having me on, and check in with me to make sure that I'm not driving aimlessly up I-5. Would you please?
There he is.
Great
all right,
stuff,
we'll see
dude.
him out. Matt Stretch Johnson, one half of the Sports Pit. We'll have an episode coming out soon with myself, Stretch, and Steve Sandmeyer. All right, we're going to wrap it up. Our Mariners coverage. Thank you. Thank you for sticking through this whole show. You're like, hey, man, what are we doing? We're like,
did I have a choice?
Well, you did. You could have said, hey, I'd like to leave. So I'm appreciative that you stayed along.
Yeah, no problem.
For the show.
No problem at all. I'm just
well, I was hoping we would bring the whole idea of setting this show up was this would be the last guest to come on and we could play like his final call of the Mariners clinching the pennant and going to the World Series for the first time. Because knowing him and how aggressive he is, he would have pushed Riz out of the way. Hey, Riz, go check something. Or you have a phone call back in the hallway. I'm going to call the game right now. Get out of here, Riz. But Gary Hill Jr., proud graduate of Washington State University, the Edward R. Murrow School of Communication, one of the Mariners broadcasters, joins us here. Well, I was hoping we'd have you on and just a glorious call of you being the one that got to announce the Mariners going to the World Series, but it did not happen, Gary. Oh, that was a tough one.
Hey guys.
Hey Gary. Go Cougs.
Yeah. My heart's broken for Mariner fans last night. I've lived here forever, so my friends, family, all Mariner fans, everyone I know are Mariner fans. I've gotten to know so many Mariner fans through the years. And, man, I wanted this so bad for Mariner fans. M's fans deserve a World Series. And to get so close and to have it just ripped away the way it happened, it's just heartbreaking, man. And I'm still coming to terms with it because, it lasted as such a whirlwind. The game happens and we hop on a flight and arrive back home at 4 a.m. and try and get a couple hours of sleep. So everything's just pretty raw still right now, but I'm just devastated for Mariner fans. I was really, as this kind of magical run was going, and there were so many moments. It's hard to think about now in the wake of what just happened, but I think as time marches on, we'll think about some of the great moments we all witnessed and, the Geno Grand Slam and everything. And I think about all those all-time moments that will stick with me forever. But as those are playing out, you're like, man, this could happen this year. This could be the year that the Mariners make it to the World Series. And as that game played out yesterday, like a lot of Mariner games do, it really felt like this is going to be it. The Mariners are going to punch their ticket, and just to have it ripped away the way it was is just awful.
Okay, Gary, so stupid question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. I assume that team flight must have just been quiet as hell. You could hear a pin drop, that type of thing. Was that the case?
Yeah, during the playoffs, the traveling party's so big, so there's a couple different planes flying back. And yeah, I don't think a word, honestly, was uttered on the 5-hour flight back from Toronto on our plane. It's a total gut punch. And to watch it live in person was even worse, because the place was so loud and the celebration was going on and they're celebrating on the field. And honestly, I didn't want to look at it. I didn't want to see it. So, part of me envied the people that just could turn off the TV and turn off the radio and walk away. But it was just so in your face. Like, I love my job. I love being there for all the great moments. But that one was actually really tough to witness in person.
What was it like the moment you just heard the crack of the bat from Springer?
Yeah. So I was on the call for that. And you knew it at the moment that it was gone. You knew it off the crack of the bat. And, I've been thinking about this game and the way it played out. And I know all the focus is going to be on that one moment and that one pitch. And Bizzardo's been great this year for the Mariners. And the Mariners would not be where they were without Bizzardo. He's been a true hero out of the bullpen. Like, he's been great this year. And he threw a bad pitch. And it was hit out. But I don't put everything in that game on that one pitch. You look at that inning played out, a leadoff walk to a guy at the bottom of the order, an unfortunate base hit with 2 strikes that sneaks through. That kind of set up the whole inning. And then, the Mariners, I thought, had a really good offensive night. They had consistent traffic. The way Toronto hit in this series, 3 runs is a big ask. It's a big ask to ask your pitchers to hold them down for 9 innings, the way they hit the ball. We saw the absolute best version of the Blue Jays in this series. Vlad was a monster. Vlad had 23 home runs this year in the regular season, 6 in the postseason. He struck out twice so far in the postseason. He was like truly an all-time great postseason. You've got Springer, who, look at his last few years. He was not good last year, and he's had this ridiculous bounce back this year. Is this Clement's best season he's ever going to have? Is this Lucas' best season he's ever going to have? Like, Jimenez had a bad year, and he was great in the postseason. Like, it was really unfortunate that they caught the Blue Jays just optimal, without Bichette, but everybody at the peak of their game. And to ask the pitching to make 3-run stand, I think was a big ask. And they had opportunities. I mean, if the Mariners have one swing here, one swing there, maybe they're not even in a position where one swing kills you. So, when I think about that game, I do think they're like any close game, especially in the playoffs. I think there's a lot went into it, and it wasn't just one pitch for me.
Hey, Gary, I was out of tequila yesterday, and it was about an hour before game time, and I thought, well, shit, man, I got to go get another bottle. So I was driving to the store, and then when I drove back with my bottle of tequila, I got strangely emotional. And it wasn't because I was, taking swigs out of the bottle or anything. I was completely sober.
That would be drinking and driving, Jim.
Until later. Yeah. Yes, I understand that, Puck.
That's good news.
Okay, so I'm just driving along, and I'm almost home, and it really hit me. I was listening to the Mamas and the Papas, California Dreamin', and I started tearing up thinking about how important this was going to be to my mom after they won tonight, and my kids over in Pullman, how excited they were going to be, because they were sobbing after the Mariners beat the Tigers. What I'm wondering with you, you're part of the broadcast team. If that had happened last night, do you think you could have kept it together, describing the Mariners winning while they're dancing out there and they're going to the World Series?
I don't know. That's a great question. I would have liked to have that chance for sure, because those are the people that I think about all the time. You know that Game 5 when the Mariners beat the Tigers. As I'm in the booth calling the game, my wife is in the stands with her brother. Lifetime Mariner fan. My brother's in the stands with one of his great friends, lifetime Mariners fans. My dad's in the stands with somebody. My best friends from high school and college, I went and saw them before the game. I mean, those are all the people that I think about in a run like this. It's the generations, and the Mariners now are a franchise old enough where this has been passed down from generation to generation to generation. We're like on 3 different generations now. The Mariners now old enough to have this kind of unique grandfathers, grandmothers, father's mother, we take our kids to the games, all those sorts of things. So yeah, as this got closer, and just Mariner fans are so great. They're great. It's a great fan base, and they deserve this so much. And those are all the people that I was thinking about on this run, and I certainly would have thought about in that moment, talking about a potential World Series.
Yeah. And just imagining of being on that call, how they got there. And then obviously of your time, your admiration, all of our admiration for Dave and what that would have been like to channel him and for him to be able to be there on the mic, on that. Yeah. It's every, Gary, everybody, you want to be that hero in the 9th inning, but for what you do, you want to be on that microphone for a moment like that.
Sure. I mean, you want to see those moments. You want to witness those moments. And I felt pretty lucky to be just in a small way part of some incredible moments this year. And just to talk Mariners baseball every day with everybody is super fun. And a run like this is, I mean, for me, it was a dream this year, really, because, this is something I've wanted to do since I was little kid me. Like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a Seattle Mariners play-by-play announcer, which is a ridiculous dream to have. Most of my life, it was just Dave and Rick the whole time. Like, I have no chance to actually do this. So the fact that I was doing this, and then for a run like this, it was out of this world the whole time. Like, it's really hard to describe. And I just enjoyed this year so much. Just having your heart ripped out at the last moment. My emotions are all over the place this morning, to be honest. And I'm just thankful for the run and just so badly wished it could have ended in the World Series. And the reality was, the Dodgers are a great team. The World Series would not have been easy, but just to get there would have been incredible.
Right.
Okay, Gary, I'm going to pass along a compliment to you. I've been complimenting everybody, Ryan Divish and Matt Stretch Johnson, the Seattle Times coverage of the series and the playoffs and all that. I've been really impressed with the job that you've done this year, and I look forward to the day that you're the #1 announcer for the Mariners. And I'm not saying I want Rick Riz to hurry up and retire. I want Rick to continue as long as he wants to continue, and that you take over after that reign of Rick Riz ends. Okay, so I just want to be clear about that. But I'm just, wondering, the whole thing, it must have been surreal to you, wasn't it? Just to be out there and seeing everything happen. And it's just, I mean, what a fun deal for you to be living out the dream. And God, I know Puck and I are rooting for you. I mean, a fellow Coug, and it's really cool to see what's going on with you and your career amid all of this happening.
That means a lot. Thank you. And you guys have been so supportive of me for my whole broadcasting life. So I very much appreciate that. And it's very nice of you to say. And, I thought about Rick a lot last night, and, he's one of the people I was thinking about as what happened. And, I'm sitting at the table next to him, and man, he has called, you think about how many games he has called, how many innings he has called, and to be on the doorstep like that. And, he would have had his chance to call his first World Series innings, and
how was he taking it last night?
It was hard. It was hard for everybody. Yeah. I mean, you just get so emotionally invested, like everyone else. And man, it's wild to think about the season starts for us in February with that first pitch in spring training, and it's literally our entire lives. It's all encompassing. It's every day. It's the games every day. It's the travel. It's like this marathon where you never stop, and it's just all consuming. And then in the blink of an eye, especially when you think it's going to keep going, in the blink of an eye, it just stops and it's just over. And then you're just kind of looking around like, what just happened? What is going on? And the whole flight back, you're just trying to process the whole thing. I don't know. This last 12 hours or so it's been difficult.
Yeah. Well, just to echo what Jim said, you did a great job. You'll continue to do a great job. It was a tough one last night. Keep up the great work. Reintroduce yourself to your family.
Yes, I'll do that.
And right when you wake up from your nap, you're going to be back down in Peoria. I'll tell you that. It's right around the corner, it seems like.
Hey, and that's the thing. Like this is going to stay with people for a long time.
Sure.
Obviously. But I do think the organization is in a really good spot. I mean, I think the core is excellent when you talk about who they have returning, and hopefully they'll add to it. And I know there's mutual interest in Naylor, which would certainly be a great return. So I do think the Mariners are in a really good window. And I do think that this is something like the playoffs are hard. Anything can happen in a 5-game series, and there's no guarantees of anything. But I think as the Mariners go into next season, they'll be the favorites in the division. So hopefully this will be the beginning of a run. And at the end of the day, we end up looking at a year like this that makes a World Series and potentially a World Series win even sweeter after going through so much pain this year. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Well said. Thank you, Gary. Appreciate the time. Thank you
Thanks,
again.
guys.
See you, Gary. Thank you.
Here he is, Mariners broadcaster Gary Hill Jr. with us here on the Daily Puck Drop and Puck Sports. And just imagine yourself, right? We none of us were good enough at baseball to be the guy for your favorite hometown team, to be up in the bottom of the ninth, to have the game-winning hit. But a guy like Gary, again, grew up a Mariners fan. All he wanted to do was be the voice of the Mariners, and he was, 8 outs away? What was it? From being able to say that they were going to go to the World Series. Yeah, Lord.
Yeah, and you went to school with him.
Sure did. You knew right away that guy was going to be something.
God, look at
look
at his career compared to you.
Yeah.
He's doing some podcast.
You know what, man?
And he's a superstar.
I was just going to thank you for come on, we've gone almost 2 hours.
You rip the people you love the most, don't you?
What are we doing? Why was this so long today? Hey, I promise on tomorrow's show we'll go really short. We will do a real short one. Okay.
That's okay, Puck.
Yeah,
man, you know what? Right. You've been there for me. I'm going to be there for you. Whenever you need me, I'm here.
Man, thank you to everyone that joined us on today's show. Chris Egan, Ryan Divish, Matt Stretch Johnson, one half of the SportsPit, along with Steve Sandmeyer and Gary Hill Jr. We normally just wrap up the show with Hey, What the Puck? It is brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle. It's your restoration company that lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, mold damage with their property restoration services. Locally owned and operated, making your first call on these damages to affect your residential or commercial property. 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com. North Seattle franchise. I'll give you a last word.
Oh, a last word?
Yeah. What do you?
Oh man, just what everybody else said today, I just agree with. And it's so heartfelt, and it hurt everybody, and it's sad. And there's so many different emotions that everybody has. But what I liked what Gary said at the end there, that you need to keep in mind that this team, even though when DePoto used to talk about sustainable success, we were thinking, hey man, we just want 1 year. We'd take that. But clearly they're set up for the future, and hopefully they'll see all the proceeds that they made in the playoffs, the ownership, and that what Divish was saying about having to overpay for Naylor and not to expect a hometown discount, that they'll go all in on Naylor. It'd be great if they got Suarez back. They don't need to bring him back. They got Williamson, and I know he's not Suarez. He's not going to hit 50 home runs, that type of thing. But still, they have a third baseman. Polanco, you'd like to have back. You still have Cole Young. I'm sure he's going to be fine. You got Colt Emerson waiting in the wings, to take over for JP. All these different things. So they're set up for future success too. And maybe these are the kind of things like when we're kids that our dads tell us about, that you got to go through some hardship and some setbacks and some adversity, and it'll make it even sweeter once you get there and actually accomplish what you're shooting for. So I don't know if any of that crap I just said makes sense, but those are things that wandered through my mind anyway.
Well said. Thank you for doing it. And it was a bonus edition of Jim Moore. Boy, Brotherton Cadillac, Angry Beaver, and a Clean Streak. They got their money's worth today. And big thanks for sponsoring Jim every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and a bonus Tuesday. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you, Jim.
Okay, Puck. Go Cougs. Go M's.
Go Cougs. Go M's. There he is, Jim Moore, the go-to guy, with us here on today's Daily Puck Drop. All right, we'll sign off. A long one today. Thanks for everyone watching and listening today. Big thanks to all of our sponsors, as always. They're the Limback Lumber, Flat Stick, Georgetown Brewery, gym sponsors, as we mentioned before, Clean Streak, Brotherton Cadillac, and Angry Beaver. Oh, also, big thanks to Restoration One, as always. Please find today's Daily Puck Drop up on YouTube. When you're there, please subscribe and like the channel. You can find today's show on your favorite podcast platforms as well. And, of course, you can find everything at pucksports.com, including if you want to sign up to become a Pucks Posse member. It supports all the daily content we do. Plus, we give you bonus shows throughout the week. Again, all of it up at pucksports.com. We'll be back tomorrow. It'll be a Wednesday show. Maybe we'll talk a little Seahawks on tomorrow's show with their victory that they had over the Houston Texans on Monday night. Thank you for the long edition of today's Daily Puck Drop. We'll see you tomorrow. As always, we promise to be better.
No shoes, no ties.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah. I was born to love. I was born to lick your face. I was born to rub you. But you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my address for? We like to send out a mailer.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!